Hi, this is Edward with sonsofgod.com. It's May 19th, 2011, Thursday evening. Greetings. Ann and I send you our love and greetings. It's been 6 months since we've done a video, and at one point I didn't see us doing any further videos. However, that of course has changed. The purpose for this word is to talk briefly about the School of Prophets. It's been heavy on our heart the last several weeks, and we've been struggling a little bit with our hearts, our time, and just some loose ends to free us up in what is unfolding. We are planning on having a conference call on Saturday at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. It will not be with Skype. Most likely it will be with a company called GoToMeeting. You will get emailed the information concerning it. It is probably, from what we've seen, one of the best services at a very modest price point to achieve what we want to do with these conference calls. I anticipate that we'll have 1 or 2 a week. And I know that some of you will be able to make them and some of you will not, and it's not a problem, and perhaps we can glean the conversations a little bit. What I see with the conference calls would be more of an open forum of discussion or questions. I say that cautiously because we've really looked to the Lord about who's to be involved in the School of Prophets. Ann and I are the last ones that want to put out and say, okay, well, you guys have got to be submissive to us. It's not about that. It's being submissive to the Lord and giving our hearts to the Lord as we give our hearts to one another. I know that we're looking for something in what I would feel an open door of a relationship with all of you, and there are some that are honestly not ready for this level of commitment or openness of heart. The numbers were a little bit higher a week ago, and then as we began to lay down just a very few small parameters, the numbers have narrowed a little bit more. And I don't know, with what we're looking at right now in this group, if this will pare down a little bit more yet. At this point, there are 27. There may still be a few more that may get involved, and I anticipate there will probably be some that may decide this is not the direction that they want. It's a very unusual thing that we're approaching here because it's not really a school. I mean, you know, when you think of a school, you study, you learn, you take tests, you graduate, you get a degree, whatever. What we're looking at here is more of an interaction that is going to create levels of experience and reality for each of you, and I know for Ann and I. I know that as much as all of you will receive the blessing and the impartation of what the Lord wants to bring, I know that Ann and I, as one of his channels, will receive a great deal just by being a conduit of what the Lord wants to speak. So it'll be interesting moving forward. Like I mentioned in one of the recent emails, it's certainly not going to be polished. I don't know that we've had enough time, honestly, to thoroughly think out exactly all of the steps that we envision. Our time has still been a little bit of a challenge, and so we're just going to move forward with this, and we can stumble and we can fall if necessary. There may not be a perfect semblance of order. I know that when we wrote the book, we had a chance to take so many words and just lay them out and begin to put them together in a semblance of order that made sense. And that took quite a bit of time. I know ideally for this school of prophets or school of spirit, school of experience, it would be great to just have it lined out very clearly. I don't necessarily see that. I think we're just going to have to go with what comes and work on it. And as far as what we anticipate out of this time of, I guess we'll call it a school, what I anticipate are deeper levels of changes within each and every one of us as God brings us into a time of fruition. But it's not like you can take a test and pass and say, okay, well, I've passed this hurdle. There's really no one that's going to be able to measure the success or failure. Well, I'm not going to say failure, I'm going to say level of success, except yourself. And what I've looked back at the words that God has spoken to us, and rarely, if any, has God just made it very clear that, okay, well, if you do this, this, and this, then it's all done, as if there's an easy end product in sight. More, what he does, he opens you up to see something more than you hadn't seen previously. And I know we've touched on this in the book, and that very experience thrusts you into a deeper level of travail within your spirit. And it's not that your spirit doesn't have it. The whole challenge that we're facing here is the dichotomy of the soul and spirit, and the ascendancy of the spirit over the soul, to where the soul really gets relegated to just a state of being non-existent to a great degree. So we're dealing with words that will be presented to our hearts, and we may have experienced them in a measure, we may see them to a degree, but we don't see it yet. And what it does, it thrusts you into a time of seeking the Lord. And I know that for Ann and I, it's one thing to, I'll digress for a moment. An example would be ministering to someone. It's one thing to just take dominion in a general form. It's another thing to have insight, to know exactly what you're dealing with, so that you really then are able to more effectively take dominion, administer authority. And I feel what God does is he brings highlights of what is unfolding, what is right before us, of what's right in front of our eyes, of what has come to a time of fruition, and yet it remains a people that reach in with faith and embody that word. So there's no guarantee here, no matter how much any of us have walked before the Lord, including Anna and myself, that you're going to make this transition, because it is a very individual, personal thing. The word's going to come to point the way, to open your mind to a level of reality and truth that is right here, and you're going to touch it, and you're going to sense it and feel it, but you may not possess it at first. And it throws you into a focused intercession, if you want to call it that, or a focused travail, where you know what you're reaching for because you've seen it, even if it's just for a moment, or you've tasted it for just a moment, and you realize the reality of it is here. You just hadn't seen it before then. It's like one of the opening up, the veil coming off your eyes a little bit. That's what I see with it's going to unfold here in the school. There will be impartation. I mean, if you've read the book, I'm sure you all have, there is no communication that we have that there is not a level of impartation or transference that happens out of it. When I speak to you or you speak to me, transference, impartation is happening. It's not necessarily always good. You can impart from soul to soul. You can impart oppression to oppression, or you can impart in God to someone and bring them into something much deeper. That's what we're looking for, a channel of the higher flow. God is going to impart by His Spirit, through our spirit, one to another, and there will be a release and a deliverance. And this is what I'm looking for. But here again, that in itself is not an end, because what that does is then thrusts you into a deeper drive to fully possess the reality of what you've begun to see. So more than anything, it's a school of experience, and we will be humbly trying to figure our way as we go. I know that we have a tremendous amount of material in our library things that the Lord has shown us, spoken to us, things that we've walked in, teachers, things that go back 40 years. And we will be drawing some of that stuff out. In fact, the next couple of days, you'll be notified of a link at the site for the SOP. There will be a unique password eventually for all of you. Right now there'll just be one generic password until I get through the whole computer thing, which has been it's been what it's been. It's taken a certain level of focus and intention to deal with it. But you'll be getting a notification of that, because we're going to put some words up that came in a school of prophets 40 years ago. The man that brought that school of prophets was John Robert Stevens, our mentor and father in the faith, who is on the other side of the veil and who somewhat regularly visits us. And so there's quite an interaction there. But the words he brought, the school that he brought, was way beyond its time, for there weren't ears to hear the level of what God was bringing at that time. But we're going to bring some of those words out. We're going to scan them in, and we're going to put them up for you to read. There'll be maybe 2 or 3 a week, so there'll be some reading going on germane to the subjects that we're going to be dealing with. And we definitely want to dive into some things about spiritual warfare, but I'm going to do a separate video shortly here that is going to deal with our first step, and that first step is going to deal with a deeper level of repentance and clearing the way in our heart for what God wants to do. That's step one. So Ann and I want to send our love to you. It's been I feel like in many ways it's been a while. And we anticipate great things that God's going to unfold. One last thing, I know that Ann will be here on Saturday for the call. She will then be out of town for a week, leaving Sunday. And I know for myself, I intend to dedicate most of that week to fasting. And I have not yet determined exactly what type of fast that will be. But definitely this next week is going to be a major push on our part, and I know on your part as well, as we move things down the road. It would be an understatement to say that the enemy on every level in all of your lives is contending and warring against the releases that God has for you, the deliverance, the birthing of the Son. That's all right. We understand that. We see it for what it is. But we know that our faces are set like flint, and we will get through this and move into the depth of resurrection life that God has for us. So once again, we send our love and blessing to you.